All right. So we're at 9 o'clock. Oh, there he is. Hey, Phil. No, he's probably not quite connected yet.
That's John. He's in here.
Phil, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. We got everybody. Leslie, can we do a roll call?
Don Krischer.
Here.
Susan Murphy.
Here.
Bill Pardue.
Here.
Tara Twomey.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. First up, public appearances. I do not see anybody from the public participating this morning, so we will move on to announcements from the trustees.
We are going to be able to give the library $25,000. They voted at the last meeting, so they will get the check on November.
Terrific. It's wonderful, Susan. Thank you so much.
A lot of it's from the from the book sale plus the market. And we're going to do just one more book sale, just so people know. This will be the last in July, probably the last book sale we will do. It'll be 50, and we're all getting too old. It's too much work.
Well, you guys do an amazing job, and the market seems to be successful too. I see you guys out there many weeks, so that's terrific. Let's see, John, any announcements?
No, I don't at this time. Thank you.
Phil?
No, not for me. Thanks.
Great. All right, I don't have any either, so we will move along to Ashley. Announcements?
Just that work continues apace on hiring. We did a quick recruitment for full-time library assistants, and just finished reviewing applications and working on getting some interviews scheduled. And then we're reopening the librarian 2 position and hoping to get some interviews concluded before the end of the calendar year. It gets tricky around the holidays, of course, with getting these things scheduled and all of that. But I am working towards that. Next week, we added a part-time staff member, and anytime I can, I look at the schedule, which is rainbow colored and very complex with where everybody is at any given point between the 2 buildings during the day. And so we do have one more part-timer, and I think we can expand opening up Thursdays, so that will start next week. Things are going well with story time. Leanne's been working on meeting the school librarians, Carmel Unified School District, and starting some conversations about a program that we can collaborate with them on in the springtime. We're also adding in, adding back in family yoga time. We had that before the pandemic. It was very popular. And so she's been working with a local instructor who has experience working with families and children on that. And there'll be a series that we'll be doing in November that I'm really excited about, that works to bring community together. We have a lot of new families in town, and making friends is always tricky, and building those connections. And so it kind of serves that, it's meant to serve that twofold purpose. And Leanne's excited about it. I'm excited about it. So good things are happening at the library.
Excellent. And I will say that I actually, after our meeting, it was either the last meeting, which was the special meeting, I popped by story time in the park, and things were in full swing with lots of little kids. It was just post story time by the time I got up there, but there were lots of little folk running around playing with balls and hoops and things that were the post story time fun, and they were all seeming to have a good time. So it seemed like it was a success. Okay, let's move on to the orders of business. First up, it looks like Alex received a report from the Carmel Public Library Foundation.
Morning, everyone. We are in the process of seeding the Monterey County Gives campaign, which I think it's our 4th annual one that we're doing. And it officially kicks off November 11th, but you can donate now by going to montereycountygives.org and finding the Carmel Public Library Foundation. And typically they match the funds with 20%. So that's happening now. So please spread the word. Our MARCOM meetings for potential agencies are still underway, and I will keep you posted and abreast of that, of the progress with that. Our annual campaign mailer is our theme is Get Inspired, and that will drop in the next few weeks. And so that's going to be fun. Today's local history program is a screening, or I should say tonight's is a screening of the film Bohemian Soul at the Forest Theater. And we are at capacity of 500 attendees, which has turned it into a much larger event. And we're going to be doing a panel discussion afterwards with a lot of the featured talent from the film. It's really exciting. And it will also be live streamed and recorded in case you want to view it at another time. Our next program up is on November 9th, and it's with Julia Hugh, and she's founder of a digital health company called Lark. And so it'll be really interesting to hear about her journey, because it was her own health issues that sort of led her to launch this company, which has now got 2 million subscribers. And to be a woman under 40 in Silicon Valley is also a story in and of itself. So please join us at Carpenter Hall for that program. It'll be really interesting. On November 2nd, we will be honoring CPLF former board director and library devotee, Valera Lyles, at an intimate dinner. So we're foregoing the philanthropy day at Spanish Bay. That's a really big luncheon of like 750 people this year, partly because of COVID. And also we wanted to try something different, to have like an intimate sort of celebration and really nice formal dinner for her, in her honor. On a somber note, I'm sure most of you already know that one of our former CPLF presidents and community leader, Leslie Snorf, has passed. Leslie was an impactful individual who engaged with everyone with enthusiasm and sincerity. Her significant involvement with CPLF was instrumental in bringing the foundation to the next level. Leslie was an inspiration and remarkable individual. She will be greatly missed by all of us, and on me personally, for sure. And I'm sure we'll find a way to celebrate her and some of the other significant players in our community, and especially with our library and library foundation in the upcoming year. So now on to a brighter note, the holidays are upon us. So please mark your calendar for CPLF's annual holiday reception at the Cypress Inn on December 13th, which I believe is a Tuesday, from 4 to 6. We hope you and your spouse or significant other or whomever you would like to invite will be joining us to celebrate in person. And lastly, saving best for last, I guess, I want to announce this year's event speaker. She'll be, which our annual fundraiser will take place April 18th, so please save the date, is author Tara Westover, who is the author of the book Educated, which debuted in 2018 and was on the New York Times bestseller list for over 2 years, selling over 6 million copies and translated into 45 languages. I am super excited to have her. Now my big search is finding someone worthy to interview her. If you have any suggestions, you know where to reach me. A nice, a journalist would be great, or anyone that, if you have any recommendations, I'm open. And that's it. One last thing is, because of the large turnout for this event, last week we kind of did a down and dirty marketing piece, and it's this piece that we'll be able to give out for everyone. This is the cover of, I don't know if you can see it, but it's the cover of our annual campaign. But on the back, we resurrected Tara's You Want It, We Got It, Because You Give, all of sort of the bullets that highlight what we have going on with the library. So this is kind of a fun piece, which we'll distribute. And thanks for that. And that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'm open.
Any questions for Alex? As usual, it's a pretty packed program in general. And that's terrific that you have so many people coming to the forest. That's amazing. Let's see, Susan, any questions for Alex?
No, I have a suggestion. I don't know if he's a good speaker because I've never heard him, but maybe the superintendent of schools for Carmel might be a good person to interview. Tara, or your educated person?
Thank you for that.
Possibility anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I've not heard him, so I don't know if he's good or not. But if he's a good speaker, it might be since he's involved in education in the community, might be a good, idea.
you.
Be a good community connection too. Let's see, John, any questions for Alex?
No, just they have an awful lot going on, I'll have to admit, an awful lot.
And Phil,
Great job.
any comments?
No comments or questions for me. Thanks.
Great. Well, Alex, thanks. And thanks to CPLF for all they do. It's always amazing to hear what's going on. All right. Next on the agenda, approval of the minutes for the October 5th, 2022 special meeting. So this is the meeting that we had after we missed a couple because of technology issues. And I guess, does anybody have any comments, corrections, or changes to those minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Thank you, Susan. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, John. Leslie?
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Bill Pardue,
Abstain.
Tara Twomey.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Librarians report for September 2022.
So librarians report for 2022 for September. Our circulation totals and foot traffic in the buildings took a dip. This is typical for what we see in September as families, refigure out their school schedules, and we usually see this dip in circulation after summer reading. So that's the only major thing of note. I did complete, and I will present to all of you on the state library's annual statistical report coming up. I just finished it yesterday or the day before. It's quite gnarly, and they always add categories in. I've been trying to figure out a way for years to collect data on, I forget what the term they use. I've been calling it passive programs, where you can come in and it's self-directed. That's what they use, self-directed programs where, we've got the puzzle table at the main, we've got crafts out for kids. So we have activities, but it's not a scheduled, planned, group-led type of thing. And all of a sudden they are asking for these types of things. So we had a pretty good estimate for those types of things. But it was very gratifying. It gives you the numbers from last year. So I got a whole bunch of dings as you're going through. It makes you verify everything at the end because of the drastic increase in all of our numbers over last year. Because this time we were just, had only been open a month. So it was good to see our numbers getting closer to what they were pre-pandemic. And it was a happy thing to be able to go through and say, nope, these were, and put in the little notes field. Nope, this is accurate. We're open. This is great. We're getting back there. So with all of our statistics, I think things are starting to look up overall.
Excellent. Anything else, Ashley, before I check in with the...
Nothing else, no.
Okay. So any questions for Ashley on her report? Phil?
Nope, none for me. Thanks.
John?
No, not this time.
Susan?
No.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. All right. Next item, receive the treasurer's report and approve the check register for September 2022. John? John in the shadows.
Yeah, there's not much to report. We're doing really good. The only thing we're over budget on is items that are annually taken out, so it makes us over budget at that time. We're collecting, our interest is a little bit more than we thought we were going to get. I think we're getting about 1% now, which is a little bit better than 0.5% we were getting last year. And one thing looking at, I think we may have to do a budget adjustment or maybe budget a little bit more to the children's programs, the story time and things like that. We're right up against right now for what we had planned on spending. And it seems like she's pretty robust in her planning, the children's librarian. So that might be something we look at in the future. Other than that, everything looks really great. And the checks that I've looked over that Leslie sent me, they're all the same as normal, nothing out of the ordinary on those.
Great. Thank you. Let me just see if the other trustees have any questions. Susan, do you have any questions for John?
No?
Phil?
No questions?
This is maybe a question more directed towards Ashley. Ashley, do you anticipate that we might, it was actually before John even mentioned doing a budget adjustment for the children's stuff. I was thinking maybe we would need to do adjustment for the children's stuff. Are you anticipating that?
I am anticipating that, yes.
Okay.
In December, there are a couple budget adjustments that I'd like to bring forward to the board. One of them is for children's programs and ordering, and the other is for some work with technology stuff that I've been talking to both John and our IT manager about. And so I'll come forward in December with those requested adjustments.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So if there are no other comments or suggestions, so we also have the check register. So John just kind of reviewed the budget, but the check register is also attached here. If there are no further questions, can I get a motion to approve the check register?
I so move.
Thank you,
I
Susan.
second.
Thank you, Phil. We have a motion and a second. Leslie?
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Bill Pardue,
Yes.
Tara Twomey.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
All right. Next, and this is consideration of amendments to the library policy for cash handling and receiving of money. We touched on this. We knew it was coming. We touched on this at our last meeting. We have something kind of, I think, more clear in front of us now. So Ashley, I'll turn it over to you to kind of just review what we have here.
Yes, so as Tara said at our last meeting, we talked about, in particular, unexpended funds at the end of the fiscal year. So I've drafted some language that I think kind of captures some of the things that we spoke about during that discussion, and I have proposed those under the section for investment of funds within the library policy for cash handling and receiving of money. I also had some other small amendments that Leslie and I had been working on pre-pandemic that needed to come before the board for approval. Those items are smaller in nature to the change proposed under the investment of funds. One of those is to reduce the amount that of cash we keep in our cash drawers, simply because we're not taking in the amount of cash that we used to with the elimination of fines. And soon we'll have our new copy machine and coin machine in place. So hopefully that'll be further reduced at the main library in particular. It's very rare that we take in anything other than checks at the park branch for replacement books if something is lost, but there's not a lot of cash handling that happens there at all. And then the other change proposed is a logistical improvement for us, which is to switch the reconciliation and deposit of funds from Friday to Monday. So we found that would work better for staff in this grander scheme of things. So those are the two smaller changes. With the investment of funds, going back to that.
So Ashley, I'm wondering if we can just take these separately, because I think that they are significantly different. And so before we move on to the investment of funds, I'd actually just like to see if people have questions on the cash handling changes that you're proposing, which at least in my view look pretty minor. And see if people have questions about those, and actually, and then maybe actually take a vote on those, and then let's get down to the investment piece. So let me just ask, does anybody have any questions for Ashley with respect to the proposed changes to the cash handling policies that she's proposed here? Okay.
None.
Nobody, I'm going to actually do this because we're on video. I think it's actually helpful to do this. Susan, do you have any questions on the cash handling procedure? No. John, do you have any questions on the cash handling procedure?
No, I understand. I think it's a good idea what they want to do. I understand it completely.
Okay. Phil?
No questions.
Great.
I think it's reasonable.
Okay, then with that said, I think before we get to the investment of funds, Ashley, this is these aren't in our bylaws, so we're really.
These aren't in your bylaws. This is both sections, the investment of funds and this. Are part of the library policy for cash handling and receiving of money. So it's all one policy that's separate from the bylaws. And I did go through the bylaws to make sure that none of this language appeared there as well, so that we wouldn't need a twofold change or something like that.
Okay, great. Yeah. So we would be essentially voting just to change the policies, the written policies that we have on this.
Exactly.
So let me do this. Can I get a motion to approve the two changes to the cash handling policy. We're going to take these separately.
So just 1 and 2 as they're proposed in the staff
Just 1 and
report.
2 as they're proposed. Yeah.
Yes.
I guess I so move since
Great.
nobody
Thank
else
you,
is
Susan.
gonna do it.
I'll second.
Excellent. All right. So Leslie, can we just get a vote on 1 and 2 as they're proposed, as Susan has moved?
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Phil Pardue,
Yes.
Tara Twomey.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
All right, great. I think that's the kind of a little chunk that we can take off there. Okay, Ashley, to the investment fund. Again, this was something that we had talked about at our last meeting, but I'll let you kind of take it away.
Yes. So at the end of last fiscal year, we were under budget by close to $19,000. And so we began discussing what to do with the excess funds. Typically, we've done one of two things. One, they've been there in the checking account and sat there, or we've transferred those funds to LAIF. As part of that discussion, and part of our challenge in recent years is lack of staff and changes in how we've been operating with programs and budget and all of that. My proposal to amend the section under investment of funds is when we are doing a budget review in the springtime, as I'm going through building the budget for the next year and keeping tabs on where we are coming up against the fiscal year, is to propose a section under the investment of funds to codify what we do with those unexpended funds. And so I put a dollar amount in here, $5,000 or less, to kind of give us a point of reference and a trigger, if you will, for when something would occur. So anything less than $5,000 or more would be transferred to LAIF once the books are closed at the end of the fiscal year, which usually happens once we've got all of everything totally in by the end of July. So we do a LAIF transfer probably in August. Anything more than that, I think would indicate that we're either not completing a project or something bigger is happening, in which case, and that those funds will definitely not be expended before the end of the fiscal year. There's no reason to do a budget adjustment. There's whatever extenuating circumstances, just as we did in the pandemic, communicate with the executive director of the Carmel Public Library Foundation to reduce that fourth quarter distribution. That way those funds remain with the foundation, earning those higher interest rates than they do with LAIF, than they would if they were just in the checking account. Now, this all being said, the ultimate goal as we move forward will be to expend all the funds that have been budgeted for in the fiscal year and to invoke this on very rare occasions. So I just want to stipulate that as we're getting back to normal, to be more cognizant of making sure that we're expending the funds for what we've planned and doing budget adjustments if and when appropriate to support operations. And so that this is what I've proposed as, point of discussion for all of you in terms of language to add to that section on investment of funds.
Great. Thanks, Ashley. Let me see if people have questions about the proposed language or comments. Or Phil, I know that you weren't at the last meeting, so if we can provide you with more background or information, you can let us know.
So this is not unknown. Since I think I joined the board in 2016, the trustees, and there has not been a year where we've expended all the funds. We have always ended up in the green. So, in principle, I think this is a good way to go, because we're just transferring funds. The Library Foundation has a very, in my view, has a very well thought out investment plan. So anything we don't use can be in the foundation's investment accounts, accruing money at a rate higher, in a good year, higher than what we'll get through life. My only concern with the proposal as it stands, so in principle, I'm okay with what's going on, with what this is trying to achieve. I think it's good. I also, know that it can be hard to figure out exactly what you're going to spend. So I think like in the last month, if there's a mechanism where in the spring we don't quite get our estimates right and we underestimate how much money that the library is going to need to in its operating account to get to the end, is there a mechanism in the final month or halfway through the final quarter for the executive director and the library director to get together to make sure that the accounts balance at the end of the year? So what we're essentially doing here is we are going from a position where we're always in the green to where we're going to be bouncing up against going into the red, which is fine on the operating budget. And in total, the funds are there. It's with the library foundation rather than in the library operating account. So how do we keep ensure that we don't run red at the end of the fiscal year if in the spring we miss the estimate? And that's my question. And I'm sure you all talked about that last week, and regret I was not able to dial in. Over.
I'm not sure we got so far down into the details last week, Phil. I think one of the important discussions from last week, which I will share with you, was we had talked about whether the library itself should be investing the funds, but ultimately felt that that would be duplicating efforts of the foundation, which already has a really good system for doing that. And so it seemed like returning the funds back to the foundation was really the better option. We also had John had talked to a number of people about kind of what kind of constraints we might have, given that we are this funny kind of entity that's tied to the city. And so the idea of not maybe taking a full distribution was one that I think was favored by the board members that were participating in last week's meeting. It sounds like you're comfortable with that in principle. As well.
Because in my view, we put the budget out there. We approve the budget that the library director puts together, and then the foundation funds it. So we could. Not that we do this, not that the current board would do this, but it's kind of a moral hazard thing where we could, in theory, not that we would, but in theory, come up with overestimate every year, transfer money from the foundation into the life and build up our own accounts. And so, that's not we don't have that relationship. So, our choices are we go with a finer pencil at the beginning of the year when we come up with the budget, try to make sure we end in zero, or we just have a little bit more flexibility with this built in so that the funds remain with the people who, as they should, with the people who raised it, which is the Library Foundation. And that's kind of the way I view it. Over.
Yeah, I'm gonna, let me just see if other people have comments. John, do you have anything kind of either building on Phil or other concerns or comments about the proposed language?
I totally agree with what Phil's saying. The foundation has a much better investment policy and allowed to do much more than we can. And I think the funds are much better with the foundation, that we maybe don't take a full at the last quarter, like Ashley had said. What Phil said, I totally agree with. I did a lot of research, and believe you me, the foundation is a lot better than what we can do. So that's my only comment.
All right. Thanks, John. Susan, do you have any?
I hate to put Alex on the seat, but what does Alex have to say about this? Because she's the head of the foundation, director of the foundation. So if she has any comments, I'd like to hear those first. Otherwise, I agree with Phil.
So Alex, so again, I think you understand kind of the idea here, which is to the extent we have excess funds, we just would reduce the last distribution, leave those funds with the foundation, obviously with the goal that we should be expending the funds, but we're trying not to get stuck with having to put money into life.
I think it makes a lot of sense. As you mentioned in the last meeting, the Carmel Public Library Foundation has a separate finance committee who oversees all of the portfolio funds, and we work with 2 different groups that we vetted over the course of the years. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. We also want to stay flexible to the needs of the library throughout the year, and we can look at different things, whether it's amending the budget or providing extra funds for different projects and things of that nature. But I think in terms of investments, it's what we're here to do for the library. And we have a lot of folks on that committee and on our board who have financial expertise. And so I think that makes sense to let the money hopefully grow in good markets. So
yes, we're all hoping for good markets to come.
And,
Susan, let me go back to you.
No, I just wanted Alex's input, on that since she's involved in it. So, no, I agree. I've been sitting on that board forever, and they have really good experts on finances, and the market's getting better this week.
So if I could just make one more comment, there's two ways to do this. One is to do it at the end of the year, which we have outlined, which is just fine. The other one is to do it quarter by quarter. So that, for instance, we do the first quarter, you get to the end of the first quarter, and we have something in excess of $5,000 left over. The foundation just pays the difference, in that, if we underspend by $20,000, then the next allotment's $20,000 less, so that it stays over in the foundation and still earning. Or if that's too complicated, we can do this as it goes. It's just whether you want to do the reconciliation quarter by quarter, or if it's an end of the year function. Over.
So my thinking, Phil, is that it's better, and I'm go back to Ashley about this and Alex too, but it seems to me it's better at the end of the year, in part because we have a bumpy budget sometimes. That is, we have expenditure, the way our expenditures come in, sometimes we have annual expenditures. And I'm trying to think about if we have something that's coming in the second quarter, we may look over budget in the first quarter. We don't want to, we want to make sure that we have that to get us through the whole year. So.
Right. And I understand that. And a lot of that is from talking to Ashley before. This is a function, I think, of the Quicken books, where you put something in and it won't do it in the month. It just averages out over the whole year. So if we're still doing Quicken books, we really have, or under that accounting feature, we really have no choice but to do it at the end of the year. And that's a great point.
I also think that it becomes more complicated than it needs to be if we do it quarterly. Ashley, let me just go to you and see what your thoughts are on whether annual reconciliation or quarterly reconciliation.
I think you could find a balance between the two of those, which is we could do quarterly reviews and see if there's anything, I don't know, we planned for a project and now we definitely know for some reason it's not going to happen, in which case we could do that quarterly adjustment. But it's easier at the end of the year. As you said, we've got one-time costs that come through. We have equipment purchases that are one-time, and they're not, we don't purchase one computer a month for it. That's not how that works. So it is easier to do it at the end of the year. But I do think quarterly reviews would be good.
So I don't think that needs to be written into the right language here.
Okay.
Okay. So my one comment is, as written, this is mandatory. It says shall. And I would prefer if it says, I don't mind the shall notify the executive director of the public library, but I do think it should be may request that a reduction in the fourth quarter, that it be permissive. And look, the foundation may do whatever it does, but my concern again is that we have some costs that we're expecting. Right. I just don't want to have our hands tied if we know something's coming, or there's some reason why we might want to carry over $10,000 or $6,000 into the first quarter of the next year. So my only suggestion to this language is in the 4th line, put may request, because otherwise it comes across as a shall request. So I don't, the notification is fine. That can be a shall. If we're over, you can notify the executive director. But then I think the reduction should be more, the request for a reduction should be more permissive. So that would be my only comment. Any other comments, suggestions? right. So then I think what I'm going to do, since I'm the only one making the requested change to language, is that I would move that we adopt the language as proposed by Ashley, with the exception of adding the word may before the word request in the current fourth line of this proposed language. Leslie, do you have that? It wasn't as succinct as I might like it to be, but you got it. Okay. Does that, so let me just see, can I get a second on that motion?
Don't we have to, can you make the motion, Tara, or do we need to make the motion?
I think I can make the motion.
Okay, well, I'll second.
Is there any other discussion about that change or the adoption of the language? All right. Leslie, can we have a vote?
John Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Bill Pardue,
Yes.
Tara Twomey.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
All right. Let me see what else is on our agenda for today. Oh, back to the in-person library meetings and direction for staff.
It is, yeah, continual standing item on our agenda now. The City Council will, at their next meeting, November the 1st, be considering some changes in how they're operating meetings and mask wearing at meetings. And this will be based upon transmission rates in the county, whether we're high, whether we're low, where we are. So, and this will be additional language to the agenda that we would put in whenever we release the agenda. So it's subject to change even before the next meeting. But they're going to be having that discussion. I don't have, because they haven't had that discussion, I don't have any further direction at this point in time. As it stands today, we would need to wear our masks in the council chamber. Meetings will continue for all of our board and committee meetings, whether if we meet in person, continue to be hybrid so that people can Zoom in. So I'll leave it to the board to discuss whether or not for the December meeting, not knowing what direction the council will go and whether or not we want to have that December meeting in person in the council chamber or not.
And our December meeting again is on the
It is
7th?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
All right, well, let me check with the board to see kind of what, so I think where we have been previously in our discussions is kind of waiting for council to lift the mask mandate before we go back in person. But I will put that out to the board and see what thoughts are. Phil.
So when you say hybrid, is this hybrid for the public to come in, or is this hybrid for the board members?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
So if, for instance, if one of you, as we've got John in the south of France now, he would still be able to tune in and be with us on Zoom and participate in the meeting.
Right. That's kind of my concern, because when was the last time we had 5 members, Ashley?
It's been a while. And I did talk to the
Years?
She has, years at this point. We've been up and down with people resigning and filling vacancies. So the city clerk doesn't have it on her radar to open that up again.
So my concern is that, John travels, I travel. Tara, I know in the past you traveled. I don't know if you started up again. So, if we ever get to the point where we can't have hybrid meetings, and if the choice is meeting in person or Zoom, we're going to have to pick Zoom, because otherwise we'll miss multiple meetings per year because people are just not available. As long as we can hybrid in to an in-person Zoom meeting, I think we're good. But from the sheer structure of the board, it would be difficult.
But Phil, I think that's always been possible to some extent. I mean, there have been opportunities to, I believe in the past, it's been possible to call, it wasn't a Zoom.
Right.
We called in if you were traveling and not available to participate in person. So I think that option has always been available. The question really is for those of us that are here in town, do we want to meet in person? And I think we're really talking about the next meeting.
Right. Yeah,
December
I
7th.
understand. Yeah, I understand. I guess for the first 3 years before the pandemic, I didn't know I could dial it because I'd be traveling and missing and just not here.
Yeah, it was
And we
very,
had Niels who would be traveling and missing.
Yeah.
So as long
was-
as that option's there, and we only have 4 board members, I'm good with that. I'm fine.
Well, you're good with what? So my preference continues to be
whenever-
to do it on Zoom until the mask mandate is lifted, which has been lifted everywhere else.
Okay.
But again, I can be convinced otherwise. And I'm not sure that, I guess my thinking is if the city council is reconsidering or reviewing its policies next month, maybe we should do, and we kind of did this last time, we're kind of doing this one at a time, like what's the next meeting going to be like?
right.
But my suggestion is to do our next meeting, the December meeting, again online, hear add to the agenda or keep on the agenda kind of, what the policies are and hear what council is doing in terms. I know they would like the groups to get, I know they would like the boards to get back in person, is kind of my understanding of where the council would like to go. So we'll see kind of what they do to make that, facilitate that. That's my preference. I'm happy to hear from John and Susan. Phil, it sounds like doesn't really matter to you.
No. If it's in person, I'll be there.
I
If not,
agree with you. Let's do one more meeting on Zoom and then maybe in person the first meeting in January. Let's let's wait and see what happens at the
when it will be 2023.
I know it's not scary.
I don't know, that makes me scared. John,
Anyway,
do you have
that's my input.
John, are you going to be back?
Oh, yeah, I'll be back. No, I agree exactly with Phil. I love to travel, but I love to meet in person. So as long as I can do a hybrid, I'm more than happy. But as Susan said, I think shooting for January, a meeting in person is a good way to go at it because we'll have a decision from council by that time. And I know there's an awful lot of pressure in town for the boards to meet in person. So we'll see what happens. But I agree with Phil completely.
All right. So I think, Ashley, all you need is direction here. You and Leslie just need direction. It sounds like at least people aren't opposed to doing this online again for December, hopefully with more information from council at that point. And then again, looking to maybe do in person for our January, end of the month, January meeting.
Sounds good. We got it. Thank you all.
All right. Okay. Before we go, does anybody have future agenda items? Anything they'd like to add to the agenda for?
Next month, I'll have budget adjustments for you all to consider. As mentioned earlier in the meeting. And I would like to get back to some of the conversations we were having around strategic planning, especially as we're going to be getting, as soon as I have seasons. So July to December is special event season. And then as soon as January gets here for me, it's budget season for the next 6 months. So we'll be getting very close to budget season. And of course, strategic planning is tied into that integrally. So I want to bring back and get back on track with that process.
Great. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Anybody? All right. Well, John, I hope you continue to enjoy the south of France. It looks lovely there. For the rest of us, Phil, I don't know if you're in town, but for the rest of us, we will continue to enjoy Carmel, which I have to say is probably equally lovely. And so thanks to everybody for joining us today. And we will, I believe December 7th is our next meeting, which is this kind of, as people recall, we kind of combined the November and December meeting because of the holidays. So it's just be aware, it's not the last week of the month, last Wednesday of the month. So we'll see you all then. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
We are adjourned.
Bye.
You'll never get that drawer fixed.